Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Obviously, we sat down for a while in the beginning, chatting about everything and also deciding what topic we want to talk about. And we're going to take a little spin on releasing and letting go, and just also talking about our personal stories, what we are going through, because whatever we are going through is usually shaping what we have as a desire to talk about, because our own life experiences are also accumulating all the topics we anyway like to speak about and not have a lot of knowledge. So why not start where we're at and take it from there? So we're gonna share a little bit of stories. We also want to tie in why is it important to release and let go, and maybe even like some tips what can people do, because I think it can be quite a tough topic to understand how to do release and let go, because it's not something that we get taught very often. Yes, so just that is just a little bit. I personally feel like what I'm letting go lately is partially part of my identity. So we always, throughout life, I think we always have certain aspects we associate with our identity. And I have been guided many, many times in my life to actually let go. And sometimes it's even about really big topics that I'm like, this is me 100%, and I have to let it go. So an example I can make there, which is also going to tie in what I'm working through at the moment. And by the way, I'm going to warn you, they're burning plastic nearby here in the neighborhood. There is a lot of smoke coming into my place, so sometimes I might have to mute myself or because I have to cough. Sorry about that. That's Guatemalan life. Anyway, when I was very young, or let's say in my early child to teenage years, I used to be known as quite a smarty pants. I just had all of the random facts because when I was like 8, 9, 10, my one of my favorite books to read was the Encyclopedia. I don't know how to pronounce that right in English, but you get me. How
Encyclopedia.
is it? Yes,
Encyclopedia.
that one. And people thought I was a weirdo for doing that. I read them from beginning to the end, again and again. So with my family or also flatmates, friends, I just shared random facts. So I was known as the smarty pants. I didn't really need to study for exams. I just always got top marks. Yes, it sounds like a braggy, but it was just the truth. So a couple of years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, this whole thing shifted where I suddenly dropped out of the mind into my body. My knowledge was gone. I couldn't access even like the most basic information. I suddenly didn't know which country was where and which was the capital city. And I was very struggling for me to have to let go of being a smarty pants and accepting that actually I know nothing, because that's what the world taught me. And this allowed me to drop more into my body wisdom and feel like that my body holds a lot of wisdom that I can trust. I've started dancing and moving more and realizing that I can express myself through my movements. And also people that watch me dance were like, wow, I just learned so much. Now I have the similar thing happening where suddenly I'm dropping out of my body wisdom and I'm going to ecstatic dances here. And I realize at the moment it feels like I don't know how to move and dance anymore. And at the same time, I realize I like to read, I like to watch documentaries. I start interacting more with nerdy talks. So a shift is happening, which I know is going to bring me more into balance. That's the realization I'm now having. But this actually means I need to let go. I need to let go of solemnly focusing on my body, which was also something I did quite often on social medias. I showed myself moving and dancing and I wrote a poem underneath it because I expressed myself in this more poetic way. And now I'm realizing, okay, I have to let go of that identity. And that's hard. Someone like me that used to be really intuitively with dancing and people admired me with my movements and dance, suddenly I'm like there and I don't even know how to move anymore. So I'm just saying that this is important and it's a hard process. It's not that it's just easy for me. I'm struggling or I'm doubting and I'm confused, and at the same time, okay, there is something new waiting for me and it's important that I go through this shift. Okay, I spoke so much. Take it away.
a lot was coming through as you were speaking there. Um, you started off with like, letting go of the identity. I definitely think that we've spoken about this and the way that I consider that identity, we construct this identity based on our ego, based on our programming, based on what we've been taught we should be, we need to be, etc. And so yeah, going through the layers to get to again what we've spoken about, like we called it authenticity, to the core of who you really are, of what you are as soul, instead of the human mind. I think that yeah, we need to burn away those layers so that we can really get to what we call that authenticity. um I also loved that you were talking about those that little, nerdy thing that you would read the encyclopedia. My brain has always functioned in a way where I would just absorb facts, information, and I would be like an ace at trivia. And yeah, it was really easy for me to study and absorb information, so I would get top marks too. Um, so I can really resonate there. And I think that that's a little bit what we were talking about before, what we're discovering about neurodivergence and stuff like that. I actually think, I didn't really say it fully in our conversation, but I've been like downloading a little bit like we're actually just the ones that don't adhere to the norm of you are going to be like Rockefeller wanted little worker ants. You're going to go to school for 20 something years and you're just going to be dead end job for the rest of your life. Just ABC. We don't work that way. We don't function that way. And so they decided to slap a diagnosis on it and to medicate us, right? So I think that a lot of us don't realize that we are that neurodivergent or we're on the spectrum in some kind of way. And I think that it's actually beautiful because I think it actually just denotes how we're tapped into the higher consciousness. Because if you realize a lot of us, we're just like extra creative. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, and then when you were speaking also, um that death and rebirth, I especially right now it's resonating with me because I've embarked on another initiation also with the rose lineage, and I was explaining this to you a little bit yesterday. What I've learned about divine feminine is that we attune to Venus, in that ease, with that ease and grace, that we just surrender to the ascension and the descension. So it's like whenever Venus does she does her cycle for 18 months and she forms the sacred geometrical pattern of the five-petaled rose, right? So basically, what she's doing constantly is ascending and descending. So she's learning something new and she's bringing it into the body, learning something new and bringing it into the body. So, as women, especially, we can attune to that cycle also. And it's just about that death and rebirth. And this is going to bring me into, um, yeah, death and rebirth. I think it's such a necessary process to, yes, achieve that new identity, that embodiment of that new identity based on who you discover that you truly are. I think that a lot of us kind of forget that maybe the first question we should be asking ourselves throughout our process is, who am I? Not necessarily just what am I here to do or what is my magic? How can I offer it? I feel like we need to ask ourselves, who am I, so that we can actually discover who we are at the core, because that actually unravels the rest of it really clearly. But yeah, to be able to ask yourself that, you need to be really willing, and I think that very few actually start with that clear of a question to get their answers. And so a lot of us find ourselves going through these constant, like we said, ascension, descension, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. And we need to surrender to that also so that we can, move with ease and grace through everything. Personally, it's been reflected to me overall in the last week, in all of the work that I'm doing on myself lately and the containers that I'm being part of. I have realized that the new blueprint that I carry, or it's not a new blueprint that I carry. If not, it's a healed blueprint that I'm carrying. I've been doing a lot of work to divine my feminine, to come into that harmonization within myself, which I want to tie into what you were saying also about that being in your head a little bit more now and not feeling that you're so much in your body. It's like, I think I did say this to you yesterday. It's like you've gone in through the ascension of connecting again to your masculine energy, which is more in the mind. And now it's just time to ground that. And yes, like you said, balance and harmonize and find that center again while you're going through that dissension. But yeah, what I've been going through has just been, it's like a full week of Google started popping up on my phone and saying, there's no space. There's no space. And I was really avoiding looking at, what do you mean, Google, there's no space? And Google was literally telling me, please take a look at your photos because you've got 10 years in here and you really need to let go of all of this energy that you're holding of past loves and pains, past friends and betrayal. Because the truth is that, yes, I have had a very big sisterhood wound throughout my life. I've had very narcissistic relationships also, and I won't go into full detail about them, but what I realized is that for us to truly embody that higher blueprint is we really do need to let go of the previous. And that is as simple and as deleting photos. In my case, that caused a big yeah, movement of all this energy this week, and I'm still descending. Yeah. I think also, it's, yeah, to be able to surrender and release. There's so many different ways that we can come at this topic. It comes in little layers, first of all, I think. I think it definitely comes with your willingness to shed. You can go through the smaller layers and then you can think that you really let go of all of this, and you can think that you left that woman that you used to be in the past, but she's still in the subconscious. I think we all need to be a little bit more aware that there's not just the conscious and the unconscious. We also need to work with the subconscious. And we also need to realize it's not just the conscious and the subconscious, there is an unconscious. I think that some of these aspects get a little bit lost. And I think that a big part of that release is integrating all three.
For sure. I think that's really beautiful said. And I just want to highlight again in all of that, it's very normal that we struggle or feel pain while doing that, because I can also imagine going through all of these past photos that this is quite intense. Like emotions are coming up. Letting go from, in my opinion, it is normal to feel, first of all, it's always normal to feel emotional about anything in our life. I'm like here to always highlight that emotions are so gorgeous and beautiful, but also in releasing processes, sadness and grief and maybe frustration and anger are actually really powerful transformation tools or fires. I see them, or like, I mean, sadness is more the water, but they're really helpful to cleanse additionally. So that is a beautiful aspect to always mention there. And I think for me, what I also realized, and maybe that's why also you and me were going through sometimes a bit intense death and rebirth processes, is because I'm not just doing that for myself, but I'm also doing it for friends, for family members, especially for family members, for ancestors, for the collective, because it's like something that has not been done. I think we've talked about it before. We should still do a podcast about cyclical living, of cycles in general, because it's still something that is not done. So release and letting go would be linked to the season of autumn. So you can really imagine people going to the field and cutting the crop. So harvest season. And when you harvest, you separate what can you eat and what can you not eat. And that's basically letting go, and release process is that. It's when also when we're bleeding, we're letting go. And this is important, but as a society, we're not doing that. We're not being taught this, that this is important. So it's often people accumulate everything. You can see that as hoarding. People just collect things all throughout their life. They're never getting rid. And the sad thing is, what happens once they die, they're what is it called? The people that are left over when someone dies. Oh my goodness.
It depends. Are they dying tragically? Is it the survivors? Is it what is it?
Like the family members that survive. Anyway, the family members that are left over, they need to take care of all of your clutter and they need to throw it away. Like I've seen it with my grandparents as well. And it's like basket and suitcase full of stuff that you're like, this has no worth. So this is because as a society, we didn't learn the importance of decluttering our life. Whereas Actually, we should do that like every couple of months. I personally, I think I go through decluttering my clothes, for example, at least twice to 3 or 4 times a year. I really go through and I'm like, okay, what did I not wear for a whole year? Do I really like this clothes or not? Okay, can I get rid of it? And getting rid of it for me means I go to a lot of clothes swapping events. So I get rid of my clutter while I actually take things in that are more resonant and resemble more my new identity. So I'm
Mm,
just saying that this is a very important because this is like an energetic release. We're making like visibly our life lighter, our bodies lighter, our energy field lighter, and through that, new things can come into our life. And also, a big piece about releasing and letting go. It's not just about like directly going into, yes, new things will come into my life, but actually cherishing, living, and breathing this process, not directly going into the new, but actually being in it, which is really important because only through that we actually get to the core and we truly go through it. Like it's like diving into the underworld, going through it, and then eventually, when you're ready, you can be reborn. Or the phoenix going through the ashes.
mm.
Phoenix also goes to the ashes when it's old and yeah. Anyway, um, so I definitely would say that this, oh, I just got a bit dizzy. Sorry, there's too much smoke. Do you want to take it on?
Sure, sure. As you were speaking, I wrote down a few things. As you were speaking, I heard about decluttering is linked to a scarcity wound. So the hoarding that comes, yeah, we can it's actually really beautiful how we can really see what kind of wounds people need to let go of because of the way that they behave in their humanity, right? Hoarding is a sign of a scarcity block. And so basically these people are hoarding physical objects, but they are most probably holding on to hoarding so much more emotional baggage. And what came to me was just like to bring it to my own story instead of talking about other people. I was hoarding emotions in photos. So it's I think that these little tools, I think that that really put another spin on it for me. And then I also heard, about actually alchemizing these shadows, these lower energies, like you were speaking about sadness, pain, anger, grief. The beauty of feeling these, of letting ourselves feel them instead of pushing them down. I think that that is actually what helps us or allows us or I don't know, gifts us with the alchemization and the ability to actually turn it into our power, turn it into our medicine. I am a firm believer that we go through life and have our experiences so that we can then use them. It's not what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. In my case, I feel it's more like a whatever you're going through, it's because that is that's your legacy, and not to hold on to the pain of it. If not in transmuting it, you can then support people that are going through something similar or the same energetic kind of frequency. So yeah, I think that this came through as like an invitation to whoever's listening to us. Don't be scared of feeling your feelings, and really allow for it to yeah, witness it as you alchemize it. Let it flow through you. Don't sit in it. I never tell anybody to sit in it. I tell people to sit with it. I always tell my clients, an emotion came today, let it sit with you, ask it what it's here to teach you. It might not give you an answer immediately, but as long as you welcome it and you let it give the lesson that it needs to, just as easily as it came in, it will go away, but it will leave you with a strength, with codes that you can then create through. So, yeah, you look like you're fine again. Do you want to take it over again?
Well, I'm still dizzy. Honestly, the wind has picked up. It's blowing my way, but sure, I'll take it over. Thank you so much for speaking about that. I think that is a gorgeous way, just to also see it. I think what came up for me while I was listening is sometimes it's funny. I'm like listening, and at the same time, my mind is taking it somewhere else. It's like, there, that's what you need to say. Is what I realized actually very, very recently only is that all my life, I would say, even as actually as very small child, I knew or I could intuitively feel people's energies from when they entered my field. So I remember as a child, I really disliked having to shake everyone's hand and saying hi. And I mean, I grew up with a family. My father has there are 13 children. So imagine the amount of people we were when there was a family gathering. There was like 40 to 50 people. And then you had to shake everyone's hand, and in Switzerland we give 3 kisses. And I never liked that. And I remember my mom often shaming me for that she's like, Jenny, you need to go and say hi because I wanted to hide. And now that I'm an adult and I actually can follow my intuitive knowledge and understanding of my body, I realize that it's not good for me to say hello to everyone. I don't want to touch every single person in this life. Maybe there's like 5%, if even maybe 1% of humanity that I actually think like shaking a hand, I'm fine with. Everyone else, why I can just say hello like that or just hello. That's fine. So I realized that first of all, and that is actually me following my truth, would be letting go of this part of me that is still pleasing. Because as because it's a conformity thing that we have to follow. So if I go against it, I actually go against the conformity of what most people learn. So it challenges them. But if I follow it, I also override my own intuitive feelings. So that is no longer working anymore. I need to start playing with that. I need to start setting my boundaries earlier. And what it ties in with that was a realization I just had with you before we started recording is that I actually very often intuitively have an understanding of I see an image of a person or someone crosses my mind, crosses my path. I intuitively know yes or no. Is this person for me or are they not for me? And I also feel is there something like maybe a bit twisted going on there? Or are they living in their integrity? I'm very particular of which people do I want to surround myself with and which people are my friends and which not. And I was often feeling like, okay, I'm really harsh on that. I can remember even when I was in my early 20s, so very long ago, a good friend of mine, she once said to me, Jenny, you have to be more open towards guys wanting to approach you because otherwise you will never find anyone. What a bullshit sentence is that to say? Because most likely I was already very accurate in knowing like these guys are not good. They're not going to be good for me. So my boundary was immediately like, no, I don't even need to interact with them. So she was coming more from a people pleaser behavior of like, oh, if a guy approaches me, I have to be nice. Whereas I'm like, stop that. No. So this is still a case now where I realize that my intuition is really good at that, and I realize, okay, I need to let go of my insecurity, of my doubt of following this intuitive knowledge. And I just made a promise to Desi, because she's a really good friend of mine, that from now on, if she's bringing any person into my life, she's like, hey, look, this is a new friend of me, and I will immediately tell her what I get. I'm like, hey, this person doesn't feel grounded. This person is not actually, they have a split personality, and she can do with this information what she wants. Because I've been holding back so much all my life to only realize later on that my friends or family members actually got hurt through these people where I felt from the beginning they're not good.
Hmm.
And I held it back. So from now on, I need to speak my truth, which might sometimes backfire. So I need to be very gentle on that, but it's also about not being afraid of creating like what is it called? Blockages. No, people hitting you. It's like not being afraid of people
Great tension.
being yeah, the
Ah.
tension. People not being afraid of your truth. But if I hold back my truth in the hindsight, me realizing that I was right all along is not going to serve me.
Hmm.
Because it actually makes me then feel like, oh shit, I could have protected this person from that experience.
Hmm. Hmm. No, and definitely. And I told you, I didn't think you were holding back. Please never do it again. That this is why we need sisterhood. I'm very good at discerning. I can definitely tell from a person's energy as soon as I approach that there's something for me to discover there. I allow for the discernment to come in a little bit later. I'll give everybody an opportunity, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, so you're a lesson, you're a blessing. Um, But yeah, if you already get that, please give us a heads up because as you've discovered, what I am finding is I have a lot of imitators in my life, and that's made it very difficult for me to um, actually finalize the healing of the sister wound, if that makes sense. I do have my very close for sisters. I have you, and I can literally count them on one hand. I feel like, yeah, the tribe gets smaller and more select the more that you really find your authenticity, whether we like that or not. Um, you were talking about giving the three kisses in Switzerland. I grew up in Sydney, and that kind of physical interaction, that's not normal. When you're introduced to somebody, yes, in any case, you shake hands. But when I moved to Spain, it became that it's two kisses. And so as you were speaking, it kind of dawned on me that in countries where it is socially expected that we give ourselves in physical contact, um, yeah, first of all, it's socially expected. And I don't want to feel like I'm dramatizing, but I have kind of realized that these are the cultures where we can see that there's a little bit more of those expectations on the feminine. Like you were saying before, like I'm expected to just let a guy that's approaching me just be like, yes, hi, I'm Jen, and just whatever. I feel like it puts a lot more expectation on the female to be a lot more accessible to the man. And yeah, I think that we're ready to get rid of that, quite honestly. Um, what else came to me? I've been writing things down today. It keeps my brain a little bit structured. So yes, I think, yeah, I think that the major thing that I picked up on as you were speaking there was that physical interaction. And so I do feel that as souls, we do remember what it is to be that I am, that unity, right? That unit. And however, because of the fact that we live in a society where the energies are so distorted, I think that we really do need to discern who are we interacting with. And energy is not just through physical contact, it's also through like proximity. You know, there are people that I prefer to stay well away from. There are places that I prefer to stay well away from because I can feel the density in the town, or I can feel the density in the city. And so yeah, I think that we definitely need to discern a little bit in that sense. However, I do feel that maybe the places where it is culturally accepted to be giving so many kisses to say hello, to present people to others, to introduce them, I do feel like that is the soul yearning for that connection. Like, "Oh, I recognize you, come here." But, and it may have started that way, but it's become an expectation. And so, yes, now we are told, what are you doing? Don't be the weird one. Go give a hug, go give a kiss. And it happens in families too. I remember when I was like 15, 16, my mom's partner had like no, I was 20. My mom's partner had a 5-year-old. And I remember his grandparents saying to him, come here, give me a kiss. Oh, you don't give me a kiss, then I'm not buying you any sweets. What are we doing here to kids? Are we teaching our kids that they have to give their physical contact to an adult when they don't want to? Is that the way that we've been brought up? It just alerts us, or it alerted me to the fact that yes, we have been programmed this way to be accessible. And yeah, I mean, as a facilitator, as a priestess, as a healer, as someone in service, I do want to be accessible. And yet there is a price to access to me. It's an energy exchange. And yet there is also a price exchange because of the work that I'm doing. And so this just giving myself in physical proximity or an interaction just because, I think that that is long gone, especially, I mean, at least in myself, I think that in collectively, it's also leaving. We have so many goddesses out there that they're preferring celibacy. Men, do not come near me. Do not. I went through that too. And it's just because I don't want physical interaction with just anybody. I think there was a big switch with me, definitely when I went through like sexual abuse in my teens. That was a very big one. Um, and that kind of just put me off. It was when I arrived in Spain, and so that definitely put me off physical interaction, just for the sake of it. So yeah, they're my 2 cents on what you were saying.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much. Yeah, powerful things to say. I can also see visibly that your voice is just actually going right now. It's always a intense one to speak about those topics. So I just want to say thank you from my side, but also from the world in general that you just openly speak about those topics because it's so important.
It's hard, but it's really
Yeah,
hard. It's like
yeah,
if I really look at it, my experiences of sexual abuse, they are also entangled with sisterhood wounding. They're also entangled with betrayal from family members, from the male family members. They're also in like yeah, society. It's also like it was just really traumatic. Different
yeah.
things happened to me throughout my life, and I know that there are lots of women out there like me that have gone through this, and I just, just an invitation and just a reminder that it doesn't define you. You're not defined by your circumstances or the situations that happen to you, and you can reclaim your power just like I did. And it doesn't make it I mean, you heal it and we can talk about it. But yeah, I didn't expect myself to say that out loud in public on YouTube. But yeah, it doesn't define you and don't let it break you because you can come out of it and you can make it your freaking power. I'm reclaiming my sexuality at the moment and my business is taking a turn into sacred sexuality, into divine union, physical divine union, because before it was about the internal divine union. And I realized that being a priestess of union is not just about the internal, it's also about the external. So, yeah, your powers, it's like I was saying before, instead of holding on to our pains, we alchemize them into our powers, into our codes, into how we can guide other people if that is our calling. I mean, it's my calling to do it on a bigger scale because that's what my soul has chosen to do. And yet, even if that is not your calling, maybe your calling is just to cut the crap in your lineage and make sure that it doesn't happen to any of your daughters or your daughter's daughters, etc. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah,
Yeah.
powerful to alchemize.
Thank you for that speech and the reminder for everyone. I think that's powerful. And I actually have to say, for me, sharing about those things and not keeping them hidden is a fucking massive release by itself, not just for you, but for so many out there that hear it and they're like, whoa, okay, I'm not the only one. Imagine that. And also for me, when we keep that inside, this pain, this massive, massive, massive betrayal from you just shared, not just the abusers themselves, but actually also by close people in your life, family members, and everything. It also releases a certain kind of tension that we hold, right? It's like it feels like holding something so intense inside. Yeah, it's a release of energy just by sharing. And I am really happy to see that so many women are stepping up and sharing about it because I personally did a training as a sex coach, and honestly, like the amount of women during that training that realized that something like that happened, because a lot of it can be hidden when it happened, especially when we were young. And also the amount of women that already knew about it, I would like say the dark invisible number of abuse happening in especially women is insanely high. So speaking about that is just gonna be a collective world release anyway, because it's such attention, yeah. And so much awareness that needs to be brought around those topics because, yeah. And yeah, ugh, don't even say, I don't know what to say anymore here because it's just like, woof, we blew up the topic here.
I'll butt in there because I don't know, maybe this is just an invitation for other women to reflect also. I realized going through my generational patterns on my mother's side of the family, there's actually a generational wounding of suppressing, I mean, it is a collective thing, suppressing the voice of the feminine, right? We're not supposed to complain, we're not supposed to express, we're not supposed to talk about our pains and our traumas and all of this because otherwise we're erratic, otherwise we're crazy, we are over emotional, we are too much. But invalidating, it's coming to invalidating. I've had conversations with not just my family, with other women, there's so much gaslighting going on when we are speaking about our pains. And for example, someone is saying, oh, I'm really miserable in my marriage, he doesn't pay attention to me anymore, I feel like the love is gone. Instead of saying to her, well, follow your happiness, whatever you need, I'm here for you. They say, at least you've got a husband and he pays the house and this and that, and no, 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 you're gaslighting me into conforming. Don't you That's not friendship, that's not sisterhood. So yeah, but the generational wounding that I was kind of being reminded of, especially in my case, it's like I try to express something and I'm hit with, oh, we've all got shit going on. Look at your aunt, look at your mom, look at this, look at that, look at. And I'm like, well, wait a second. This one was about me. Can I express me? And so I think that we program ourselves then to not speak about it, whether it's because of shame or because we've been taught we cannot take up space. So, yeah, definitely an invitation for every woman to really reclaim that voice and to speak about it. Hoarding your emotions is not going to do you any good. It's not going to do your lineage any good. And by releasing them, you empower yourself so freaking much, and you can reclaim your voice, your power, your womb, your sacred sexuality, your goddess self. That's another topic that I think we can talk about in another video, but I really do believe that we need to bring back the memory that we're all gods and goddesses, and it was just the patriarchy and monotheism taking over that made us forget that, because we are created.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That is a gorgeous topic. Um, how are we with different angles on that? I feel like my mind is a bit blank at this point. If you have another angle, I'm very happy you to speak about it, and then I'll see what pops up for me.
Not necessarily. I think today we covered angles of coming at it through like emotions and bringing it through the body. We spoke about ascent and descent. I think we spoke about rebirth, cyclical. Yeah, I think we've covered quite a lot about this, about release. I think to finish off in any case, I think, yeah, just maybe you want to give an invitation. You said at the beginning that you might want to talk about how we go about it. Um,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
for me, the biggest part is that surrender, having dropped into the divine feminine, which is literally about being, and just letting your experience, your human experience show you. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me also the invitation, one of the biggest is yes, surrender. Second, or not even second, surrender, feel. And if you can, then share, find some close people where you can share about it. I really think it's so important when we can be witnessed by someone in our close field, just in everything that we feel. So also when we are in the mess of the releasing pot, which is sometimes really intense, we can just share about that. And it doesn't mean that you're like giving up on life or that you are a lost cause or that you need like professional help. Yes, maybe you do, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes we just feel like a mess in the moment and we're like struggling of who we are and what we need to do in this life. And actually, if we can just, my opinion or my experience also with that, and I mean also in a professional way, is sharing about it and being witnessed by someone just says, hey, it's fine that you feel like that. I'm still gonna be here for solves most of it. That's actually one of the core pieces for me as a coach is I witness you and allow you to be with whatever you are, and that already solves so much. So yeah,
Mm.
feeling, sharing, surrendering.
Get help, definitely. I feel like, yeah, it's beautiful what you said. And if you can't reach out to someone in your close proximity or someone close to you, don't, yeah, you maybe the professional help you want is not psychology. I myself, when my parents separated, they tried to put me through psychologists, and I was just like, this does not work for me. I do not have a problem here. I have a problem here. It hurts, you know? um yeah, maybe your professional help is going to come more from a coach, a guide. We're here, we do this work, we've done this work with ourselves, and we do it in our businesses also. So yeah, just find somebody who resonates with you and who will not make you feel small, who will not invalidate you, but who will help you, yeah, transform that, alchemize that into your codes, into your power, into whatever you want to do with it later.
Yeah, gorgeous, gorgeously said. Amazing. My invitation is here. It's obviously follow and subscribe us because there's more magic coming and more different topics. We have so many ideas, and I think every week we have five more ideas. So it feels like that's going to continue for a while. Also, leave in the comments maybe something that you are ready to release. And that could be something very simple. I want to release all the old clothes I kept because they actually don't no longer fit. It can be something really simple. And yes, we are super interested in that. If you need any more guidance and support, follow us on our individual Instagram accounts. We have plenty of content that we share around those topics that can maybe support you. And also feel free to text us privately because we are here.
Always.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you so much for listening in and see you again.
Bye.